Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Taking the Lead. I'm your host, Ken Jacobs of Jacobs Consulting and Executive Coaching. And today I'd like to talk about something that really has risen to the surface among many of the leaders, mostly in PR, mostly in communications, that I coach. And that's, how do I lead the leaders on my team? Because at a certain point in your career, you're not just leading an organization, you're not just leading team members, but you're leading leaders and maybe leaders in training. And I think that takes kind of a special sauce. So let's jump in. Number one, know that it is never too early to lead the leaders and leaders in training on your team. It's never too early. So, very early on, be observing who's got leadership potential, in what areas are they strong, who follows them, who has the most influence in my organization, and spend more time thinking about them and observing them. And if you wish, implementing some of the things we'll talk about today. So, related to that is the fact that you can recognize and treat them as leaders early in their careers, even before they have leadership titles. That is a great way to get them to step up and step into leadership. All right, well, let's start with you. Number one, to lead anyone, I think, but to especially lead the leaders and leaders in training on your team, make sure you have a vision, whether it is for your agency, your corporate communications department, your group, your nonprofit organization. Make sure you've got the vision, and you should be communicating that regularly. The vision is, as my friend Joel Curran has said, what comes after what comes next. And you should be looking ahead to that. And then acknowledge their role in achieving that vision, both to them and to everyone at the organization. Because when they see you seeing those leaders, as playing a role in achieving that vision, others will want to follow them. And then acknowledge their role, right? We said that already, so we're going to move on. Make sure they know that you believe in their leadership abilities. There is little more inspiring than a leader who believes in us. So make sure you're not only communicating that vision throughout the organization, make sure you've acknowledged their role in achieving the vision, and make sure they know you believe in them. And that's going to be contagious. I heard a great expression from Rob Flaherty, the former CEO and chair of Ketchum, for an article. I interviewed him and some other amazing leaders of leaders many years ago for PR strategies. And he said, create the tight frame, let them paint the canvas. So just imagine if you were a painter and you had someone in your studio, you create the tight frame, the framework, the rules, the vision, as we said, then let them paint the canvas. That's very empowering, and you're going to see them step up. And related to that, Rob and I had talked about the fact that some leaders, and this may be you, are a little afraid of letting go. They're a little afraid that, will they need me anymore? Yes, they need you. Your leaders in training need you. Your organization needs you. Your clients, internal and external, need you. But the sports reference, and you know me, I don't use a lot of sports references, is that you're shifting from player to player coach. And I can tell you, as a coach, the greatest leaders coach the people right under them, coach their stars, coach their future stars. So you're shifting from player to player coach. And another way to think about that is that your superpower till now has been maybe PR, communications, digital, social metrics, all those things that many PR people do. But they're probably really good at those things. So now your superpower becomes you as a coach to these leaders and leaders in training. And I've mentioned delegation and empowerment, I think. So I mentioned it so often, who knows if I mentioned it today. But you don't want to just delegate. You really want to empower. There's a very big difference. I mean, delegation is where it starts. You start giving away tasks. Maybe you start to give away the lowest or the least senior 5 or 10% of your responsibilities. It's not necessarily empowerment. Empowerment means you're putting them in charge of certain things. That can be a bit scary. That can be scary for both of you, but it's just critical that you do that. So language you want to use, and I've mentioned Marina. We've interviewed Marina Marr, and I mention her frequently, both in this podcast and when I'm a guest in podcasts. Hi, Marina. Hope you're watching. But she once said so many things, so empowering to me when I was both a senior VP and an EVP at Marina Marr Communications, now known as MMC, but it'll always be Marina Marr Communications to me. And she'd say, well, it's not how I do it, Ken, but, you know, I give you my proxy, go and do it. That's really empowering. Or it's not how I do it, but I've given you my proxy. And if it doesn't turn out the way you planned, we'll fix this together. It's okay. So it was this great combination of empowerment, but and encouraging me to go out on the trapeze, but knowing she would be that safety net for me. Great combination. Great combination. I started to reference this earlier, but in your career, you're pivoting, right? You're pivoting from learner to doer to teacher or trainer, but eventually you shift into mentorship. And mentorship is mentoring them, obviously, based on your own experience, your good counsel. If you really want to be an effective leader to the leaders on your team and the leaders in training, you got to switch to coach. If nothing else, start to use open-ended, empowering questions. And I don't recall if we've done a segment about the power of open-ended, empowering questions, but now I've just decided we're going to do one. So you can look up the power of open-ended, empowering questions for leaders if you want to learn more for now. The next takes some work, some time. It's created bespoke leadership style, a customized leadership style for every leader and leader in training that you lead. Now, of course, you start with your core leadership principles. What works for you? Maybe it's around trust, I hope. Maybe it's around respect, I hope. Maybe it's about being a great listener, I hope. But at a certain point, you want to take, and that point is now really, you want to take the time to understand what's most effective with each of the people that I lead. I'll reference Marina Marr again. And I've been public about this. When I worked for her all those years ago, I had some issues with fear and security. And so she led me a certain way, using the language I mentioned a few years ago. My partner in crime there, Nancy Lohman Labady, was one of the most courageous people that I've ever met. And I imagine that Marina led her in a different way than she led me. I just have to assume that. As we start to wrap up, know the power of certain words. Say yes a lot more. Say no a lot less. Say, let's try it your way. All those phrases that we mentioned earlier, they're so much more powerful. Let them learn from their leadership failures. And if you've seen me talk about failure before, I always put it in quotes, air quotes, because how you look at failure affects your success. Some of the greatest leaders in all industries my goodness, Edison, Einstein, Mr. Honda, the founder of Honda Automotive Corporation, Oprah, Dolly Parton, the Beatles, Ella Fitzgerald. Wow, what a dinner party that would be, huh? They were all very public about their failures. They celebrated their failures. They saw them and knew they were just road steps or milestones, I should say, on the road to success. They celebrated them, they spoke about them. And all of us say we wish our teams took more educated risks. Well, one great way to do that is for you to take educated risks, of course, and talk about the educated risks you took and what you learned from them. And that also means celebrating your leadership failures. So I just want to wrap with one thought that as you delegate and empower and truly lead the leaders on your team, you're going to come to a realization that Ellen Ryan Mardix, a leader of leaders who I so respect, of Golan, told me during the interview process for the article I mentioned earlier. They may do it differently from you. They may do it better than you. And when you accept that and you realize that, it's nirvana. And hats off, Ellen. I think you're absolutely right. So those are some thoughts about leading the leaders on your team. I hope you find them valuable. Please comment if you're watching this on YouTube. And if you'd like some help, some empowerment, some coaching around leading the leaders on your team, please reach out. Let's have a complimentary exploratory. You know how to reach me, KEN at jacobscomm.com. Again, KEN at jacobscomm.com. Until next time, keep on taking the lead.